Hello everyone and welcome to WhiskyWars. Today we have two Ardbegs to review on the channel. We have the Ardbeg 8-year-old against the Ardbeg 10-year-old. I've chosen to review these two against each other today because they're both roughly the same price. Around that £50 mark, could be as high as £55, but you can also find it as low as £45. So let's just say £50 for the pair. The 8-year-old is going to give you an extra 5% in ABV. Whereas the 10-year-old is going to give you just that extra 2 years in age. So they're both going to give something maybe extra to the glass, but they're both ex-bourbon cask finish, I believe. So I think it's going to be a pretty interesting review. I'm not going to mention colour really because they're both non-chill filtered, but they do not mention natural colour, so I don't know if it is or not. If that is your thing, then the Ardbeg 8 is going to be a darker, more amber colour, more golden, and the Ardbeg 10 is going to be more of a straw colour. You know instantly it's an Ardbeg. You get that saltiness, you get the peat, but you get a lot of earthy quality to it. But there's also a little bit of tobacco coming through. But a lot of this is going to be charred wood. Bonfire, campfire. But there is a sweetness on this nose, and for me it's actually quite chocolatey. A bit strange, you get boiled vegetables, so it's really quite vegetal, earthy, mossy, salty, peaty, tobacco, wet forest vibes. But you do get a chocolate on there as well. It's nice. How does the 10-year compare? Interesting. Quite different. It's the first time reviewing these two together, side by side. And the 10-year is certainly more citrusy and less sweet. I can still see the 10 appealing to more people. Also, I think the 10 might be a little bit stronger on the nose as well. More salty as well, though. Ardbeg 10 is still going to be, I keep calling it is an extremity whiskey. This is whiskey at an extreme. The Ardbeg 8 doesn't actually challenge it. It gets close, but it's softer, it's a little bit sweeter. And actually, it doesn't smell as strong as the 10-year. Side by side, I'd say the 10-year had the higher proof, and it doesn't. I realise I've not talked about the proof. The Ardbeg 8 is 50.8%, whereas the 10-year is 46%. Just before we go on to the taste, guys, if you haven't already, but you're enjoying the video, please do click the like button down below. But most importantly, and this really does help the channel out, so I'd really appreciate it if you could just spare a minute and click that subscribe button down below. I say a minute, it takes 2 or 3 seconds, but I'd really appreciate it. So thank you. Salty, salty, salty. Woody, woody, woody. Peaty, peaty, peaty. That should be your generic Ardbeg flavour profile for pretty much every Ardbeg, to be honest with you. Especially the ones that aren't heavily sherried. That's exactly what I'm getting on the taste initially. That is salty, very salty. Peaty, earthy. Not as much tobacco on the taste as there was on the nose. Dosed in, actually, a note that I did not mention, but it is so strong on the taste. Cracked black pepper. Peppered boiled vegetables with a lot of salt and peat on a campfire outside in the wilderness on a rainy day. It's giving you all those sorts of thoughts. See the 10-year? Okay, I wasn't expecting that. The 10-year is a little bit more gentlemanly. It's got a more aggressive nose, but the palate seems a little bit more refined than the 8-year-old. It's certainly, I think it knows what it wants to be a little bit more. It's a little bit more direct in its profile, whereas the 8-year is a little bit more scattered. That was sweet, citrusy, limes and vanilla. Of course, still salty, still peaty, still earthy. Also less pepper as well. The 8-year-old has just a touch of something fruity. For me, it gives me a similar experience to what the Corrie Reckon gave me. And I put it down to like a blackberry. And I think the 8-year-old reminds me of that. Very ashy. Just getting ash on the back end. Both of these whiskies, extremely long finishes as well. Both of these whiskies also both give some sort of barbecued meat on them. Peppered steak. I would say the 10-year has a little bit of a herbal quality, more so than the 8-year. I think the 8-year touches into a eucalyptus and menthol a little bit more. They both do share those notes. I'm just picking which one seems stronger than the other one. And I think a little bit more herbal, maybe like a bitter herb, like a bay leaf. Maybe even a mint actually. Whereas I think the 8-year gives off a little bit more of a eucalyptus and menthol. So yeah, two interesting drams. I've got to say, both of these whiskies are great. Really enjoy both. Which one would I say is better? I'm having a hard time with this. That citrusy, little bit sweet mint kick that the 10-year is giving me. I think the 10-year is the superior whiskey of the two. What I would say though is if you enjoy the 10-year and you end up keep buying it, I think the 8-year-old is a great alternative to have for a similar price. It is going to give you similar notes, just done a little bit differently. So I don't think the 8-year-old is not worth buying. I really do think it's worth buying. What I would say is if you've had neither of these whiskies, I would go for personally the 10-year. So for me today, the Ardbeg 10 is the winner. But do let me know down in the comments down below if you agree with this decision or disagree. Have you had the 8-year-old? Do you prefer the 8-year-old? Let me know, but tell me why as well. And most importantly as well, guys, if you haven't already, please do click that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you all for the next Whiskey War.